Hello and welcome to this Quick Bites short Just Too Easy webinar. My name's Charlie White and I'm one of the educational consultants here at Just Too Easy. Today's session is going to be all about using j2pdf. So we've got the 15-minute session. We're going to have a look at making some worksheets and we're going to look at some other uses for j2pdf, including creating a whiteboard activity for the youngest students. And then if there are any questions at the end, we can have some time for that. So first of all, what is j2pdf? Well, it allows you to turn your existing static documents, those resources that you have, that you use, that you like to print out, and turn them into something that your children can use online. You can set work with it, you can set homework with it, you can create all sorts of exciting stimuli for your children to use. But most of all, it's going to make your life as a teacher easier because it allows you to get your resources from wherever you get them from online and not have to reinvent the wheel, just to be able to take those and use them. So you're going to find j2pdf on your Launchpad. It's this red button in the middle of my screen. It might be in a different place on yours, depending on how it's organized. And when I click on it, it takes me to this gray page here. And this is where I import my PDFs. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that. For the first activity, I'm just going to click here where it says Open PDF. And that will show me everything that's in my files. So things that I've already uploaded or made. And I can see my PDF. So I'm going to start with a Key Stage 1 activity, just a standard worksheet, the kind of thing that this was really made for. So I'm going to take a mini beast measuring worksheet, the kind of thing you might find from wherever you get your resources from online. Click on it and then I click Add in the bottom right hand corner. And what that does is that stitches that as a background to a J2E5 file. Now, because it's a portrait document and J2E5 is set to portrait, that fits perfectly. If I want to change the size of it or the shape of it, I could click this unlock button here in the right hand corner, but this is fine for me exactly as it is. So I'm going to leave that for me. And then you can do anything to it that you can do within J2E5. So I can start by adding some sound, for instance. So my younger Key Stage 1 children might struggle to read my instructions. So I'm going to click up here, this green button, which is going to then allow me to record some sound. So I can click record sound and I can read out my instructions. Use a ruler to measure each mini beast and write your answer on the line next to it. And when I click add to page, that will just follow my cursor around and I can drop it wherever I want. So I'll put it in that right next to the instructions. Because it's a measuring worksheet, I'm going to want to add a ruler. So I'm going to go to this purple button on the toolbar, which is my measuring tools. Click on my ruler. I can use the arrows to resize that. I can move it around, drop it wherever I want to. My children will be able to move that around then when they have it. I could add a word list if I wanted to, if that was appropriate for my worksheet. That's the W up here. I could add a video perhaps in this green button again where I recorded the sound. I could embed a video if I had some instructions of how to use a ruler, for instance. All sorts of different things I can do to that, but that for me is fine. So when I'm happy, I'm going to save it. And that's this orange button, which is the third coloured button on the left. I'm going to save it as Mini Beast Measuring. And then I'm going to share that with my children. So I'm going to share that. I can share it with a child, a whole school, but I'm going to share it this time with class 1, my class. What I'm going to show you then is if I go to my demo pupil, Harley, here, make him a bit bigger. If he goes into his My Files, on the left is the option for shared files. And because I've shared it with the whole class, it will be in class 1. And he can open that, click Edit. He can listen to my instructions. He can move the ruler around to make those measurements. So he can see that the caterpillar is 11.5 centimetres long. He can click on the A, which is in this toolbar on the right-hand side, and that will then allow him to write wherever he clicks. So he could write his measurements on the line. He can fill in this worksheet. When it gets to the bottom, this worksheet asks him to have a go at drawing a mini beast. So he can drag his ruler down here. And he can use the pen tool also on the right to draw his mini beast. Excuse my wonderful drawing here. To make it 15 centimetres long. And when he's ready, he can save that, and that will save as a copy So it won't write over anything that I've done with his edits on it, and that will appear in the pupils files section of my files. So that's the basics of how you're going to use j2pdf and probably how you're most likely to use it. But for a few other ideas, if I come back to here, for my older children, I'm going to create a bit of a research activity. So what I've done is I'm going to put my children into groups, and I'm going to give them the topic of Romans and ask each child to research a different area of the Romans and to feed back to the other members of their group. So on my desktop, I've created this folder here called Romans Research, which I've shared with my children. For a bit more information on how to do that, you can look on the help tile for adding folders and files. Within there, I've already got a couple of j2pdfs that I've already made, entertainment and clothing, both that I've shared with my children. I'm going to make a third one now. So I'm going to come back to j2pdf. This time, I'm just going to drag my PDF straight from a folder on my desktop, and that will do exactly the same thing as if I took it from my files. And I'll open that in there. And the slight difference here is because my PDF was a landscape document, it doesn't quite fit in the same way. So what I'm going to do is click where it says lock in the bottom right-hand corner, where it now says unlock. I can click there, and that will unlock this PDF from the background. So I can now turn my J2E5 file into a landscape document with this little rectangle on the bottom. If I click there, it will turn that into a landscape document. I just need to resize now. So if I resize my page so I can see a bit better, click, just drag this over here. And when I'm happy with the size, I can lock it back into place again in the bottom right-hand corner. And I've got exactly the same thing. Again, if I wanted to record some of this information, I could. And any of those options I've got, I could add to my worksheet. But as it stands, I'm quite happy with it as it is. So I'm going to share it again. We'll call it Roman food. And I'll share it with my children. Again, with my class 1. And this time I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to take the URL and I'm going to just copy that. I'm going to come back to my Launchpad. And I'm going to add that as a tile. So this plus button at the top here, if I click on that, that's where I could have added my folder, but I'm going to leave it as a tile. Pop the URL in, I'll call it Roman food. And then I'll click add to add that. I'll need to remember to share that with my children. Share at every possible stage. They can always see it. And I can then move that into that folder I created earlier. And I do that by clicking this little unlock button at the top of my Launchpad here. I can then drag that in and lock it back up again. So in there now, I've got my 3 different PDFs. So if I take you to my demo people again, and go to his Launchpad, he can see that there. He can go in there. Oh, just need to refresh that. And there it is. It updates in real time. Click on that. Now he could create himself a little highlighter with the pen, perhaps by making it bigger and a bit more transparent. So he could highlight the information as he's reading it. He could annotate it with the pen. He can save that. So he's then got his own notes to feed back to his group when he's ready. I can then see his file again to see how his research skills are coming along. Just another spin on how we can use j2pdf. And for my final activity, I'm going to create something to use with my youngest children. So we'll just get rid of that. And I'm going to create something that I'm going to put into J2 Whiteboard. So again, I'll start off with j2pdf and I'll open my PDF, click to open my PDF. And I've got here a colouring sheet. Now this for me, if I click add, sums up exactly why j2pdf is so great, because I've got a resource here from a website that I love called Body Happy Kids. And it's a colouring sheet that's been created to promote neutral food discussion. So really great for our nutrition talks. But at the moment, it's only really useful for me if I print that off and give it to my children, but I want it to be something online. So I'm going to put it onto my whiteboard now I've uploaded that through j2pdf. So although it fits really nicely, I'm going to unlock it and I'm going to turn it landscape because my whiteboard will be landscape. Just make that smaller again so I can see. So it just will fit nicely onto my whiteboard when I'm ready. So we'll just pop that there. Not going to do anything else at this point because I'm going to do the rest in my whiteboard. So I'm going to save it. And this time I don't need to share it with my children because I'm going to share it actually physically in the classroom. So I'll come out of this now and I'll go into J2 Whiteboard. I'm going to be using this toolbar on the right and I'm going to click on embed to embed that PDF that I've just uploaded. And that will just pop that really nicely onto my whiteboard. My children can get their pens and colour that in now. But to take this to a really interesting activity within my classroom, I'm going to add some sound buttons to promote some discussion. So again, on this toolbar on the right, I'm going to click media. You've got your safe search options up here, but I've actually already got in my images what I want. So I'm going to grab these buttons and just drag them onto my page. I'm going to add some sound to them, a bit like how I did before, but this time I'm going to click on the button first. And I'm going to click on that record button up here, record sound. Then we're going to ask my children some questions. So I'm going to say, can you colour in some of the foods on the board? And I'm going to add that to selection. And I might say, which of these foods can you name? And for a bit of deeper discussion, we might say, what do some of these foods do for your body? And now what I've got is a resource I can display on my whiteboard that during free flow, the children can come over, they can listen to the sound buttons, they can colour it in, they can have those discussions. So I hope that what I've shown is that throughout the youngest children to the older children, j2pdf is something that can really make your life as a teacher much easier. And allow you to use those resources. So if there are any questions, I will just hang on just in case. Feel free to ask.
We haven't had any through on the chat, Charlie, but if anybody would like to ask any questions, you can unmute or ask them in the chat if you're feeling a bit shy. Right, we've had one question. Would this work for children with SEN?
Well, I think in this, because it's a resource really for the teacher, isn't it? So again, something for your whiteboard is going to be useful. Anything that you want your children to access that you can upload. I don't know whether you've got anything to add to that, Nikki. I know that's your specialism.
Yes, definitely. I think j2pdf has a lot of the functionality that j2e5 does. So we have a lot of accessibility tools that are built into that, such as word lists, which obviously are going to be appropriate for your SEN children. As well as that, you can create these PDFs and share them directly with individual children. So you can add those. So you could have, you know, a sort of a blanket PDF that you use with the whole class. But then you might have one or two children that have the added accessibility settings added in. So I certainly would say that this is definitely for SEN children for those reasons more than anything. Hopefully that's answered your question. Yeah. Any other questions at all? You're very welcome. Thank you for attending.